Hello everyone, I'm Pythonicus, and this is a hot-off-the-press speedrun of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This category is going to be First Ending New Game Plus S Rank, which, if you are unaware, Peace Walker actually does have two endings. The first after you beat the Peace Walker boss battle, and one after little side questing shenanigans and such. We are going to be stopping at the first set of credits, and we are going to be doing so as kitted out as we possibly can be, using all of the research and development projects that we have unlocked through countless hours of playtime. So basically we have the most powerful weaponry and equipment in the game, and we're going to be using that to try and go as fast as possible without getting spotted or without killing a single person. This particular run was a little bit messy, but it serves as a proof of concept. So, with that, the first mission here, we are actually going to be locked as Snake. The rest of the game, more or less, with the exception of one more mission, we're actually going to be using not Snake. We have recruited a soldier who actually is better than Snake. So Snake comes with a predefined set of skills, and the soldiers that you can recruit throughout the game are able to go above and beyond those skills. And so we have found ourselves a soldier or two who fit the bill, who move faster, shoot better, all these sorts of things. So we're going to be taking advantage of that as well, on top of all of the extra equipment gained throughout, well, a long time of playing. So for the first mission, as we started off, we actually went through the first section pretty cleanly. There's nothing to it. It's basically a little mini tutorial area. You just grenade the gate and then move on. And here, pretty simple stuff. Nothing too tricky just yet. We're just going to use the Mark 22 to get a couple of dudes out of our way, and then we're going to just move on to the objectives. So this first mission, again, nothing too tricky. It's all about maintaining forward momentum, basically. It's just it's an introductory sequence, getting the story in motion, teaching you the mechanics of the game. So, since we already fairly well know what the mechanics are, we're just going to go ahead and rush through it as fast as possible. And the first mission will also introduce a QTE cutscene, which we are unable to skip, and for the purposes of this run, we are actually required to make every input. Now, for most speedruns of the game, S rank or no, you're going to be going throughout the QTEs and trying to make them as quick as possible. There is one example a little later on in the game where most non-S rank speedruns will simply try and fail as quickly as possible, and this run will not have that same luxury. So this first QTE is actually really simple. It's R1, mash on the triangle button for a little bit, and then R1 again twice.
What's up there?
So nothing terribly special. We are, however, treated to the fantastic artistic stylings of guest artist Ashley Wood, who worked on the Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novel, as well as Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, as well as this game. So, fairly well pedigreed within this series. But with that, the first mission's out of the way, and now we start to move a little quicker. So between missions, if you have some sort of pressing news from back at Mother Base, it'll pop up that screen, and it wastes a couple of seconds each time, but it honestly is not that big of a deal. But as stated, we are not playing as Snake. For most of this game, we're actually going to be playing as Sea Urchin here. She is, well, kind of incredible. So, soldiers you recruit in the game can have careers or traits. Sea Urchin here is SWAT and a pro wrestling maniac. Basically what this means is she's really, really good at CQC. We're not going to be using CQC all that much, but this is also the save file one would use for, say, individual level running. So having someone with her skill set is actually incredibly good. But as stated, her stats are such that she runs faster than Snake. She can aim better, reload faster. You know, a slew of incredible benefits, which only serves to make this game that much faster. And there we were also introduced to a Peace Walker specific mechanic called box boosting, where the box in this game actually has an attack motion where you basically ram yourself full throttle at an enemy soldier and it knocks them over. Very useful, but also faster than actually just running. So for the most part, that's what we're going to be using it for. So at the end of the second mission here, we are tasked with taking out all of these enemy soldiers, which is made much easier by the fact that our Mark 22 is actually upgraded from its standard. Normally, the Mark 22, you can't actually one-shot those guys with a leg shot, but with the fully upgraded one, this early in the game, it's capable of doing the job. And for the last couple of soldiers, we have a twin barrel loaded up with rubber slugs. One may have fallen off the top of that watchtower and had an accident, but we had no hand in that. We didn't kill him, gravity did. But with all that said and done, that's the second mission over with, and we're going to be having another kind of QTE section here. I would call it a QTE, even though it's basically just 2D gameplay, more or less, where we have to shoot down a couple of the kidnappers. For the most part, there's nothing to worry about here. You can't really lose time as long as you're hitting the attack button there as soon as possible, because you are automatically trained on the target, so you don't have really any way of missing it unless you're kind of taking it easy. Then finally we got the Chrysalis here, which we will be seeing later. You take a shot at it, and then you can skip the rest of that cutscene. Who knows what happens? I don't know. Things. So our next mission here, we're going to be pursuing one of the NPCs, one of our friends who will eventually make their way to Mother Base. Technically, she's already at my Mother Base, but we're not going to talk about that. We don't gotta. No. But this third mission here, a lot like the second, we're just going to make use of sleep grenades and our arsenal to try and kind of just make our way quickly through the replenishment of the soldiers here. So with more careful aim, you can actually take out those two guards on the left there with one single sleep grenade, but I kind of scuffed it a little bit, but made do. And as you can see, this game is divided into areas. Each area, this game was originally on the PSP, so they did this as a way of saving processing power to make sure the game could actually run. On the PSP, it has a little bit of a struggle, but thankfully the HD edition runs at more or less a consistent 60, give or take. But basically the main goal is to treat every room more or less like a puzzle, trying to make it as quickly as possible through each of these sections. A lot of this will involve box boosting, so that we can quickly navigate, because a lot of the times in Metal Gear games, the main struggle is keeping track of enemy cycles, and that's the kind of brand of stealth that the game has. So, aim carefully, take out the guards, box boost to the end of the area, and then move on. The next mission in line is actually going to be an armored vehicle fight, which is going to be operate a little bit differently than the rest of the gameplay, where in a non-S rank run, you would just go full tilt, try and blow it up as quickly as possible. In S rank run, well, you'll see in a few moments here what the strategy is going to be. But it involves doing our best not to kill anybody, primarily, which is very easy to do when there's a gigantic thing with a big weapon aiming straight at you. So in S-rank runs, that jingle at the end of the mission is actually what we're listening for to let us know that we've actually hit the S-rank, because it differs between, you know, S-rank and any other rank you get. So if you hear the special jingle, you know you've done it. So we're actually going to switch our uniform here, and this is because different uniforms in the game all carry their individual loadouts, which I'll go into more detail in just a few moments here. But to start this fight, we're going to have to skip a cutscene. And then our primary goal is to remove the soldiers from the field. And the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to use the Carl Gustav Fulton Recovery Launcher, which is a especially unique, where you fire it at enemies and then they go to sleep and get sent to Mother Base via balloon. It's a very, very handy tool. But after the soldiers are dealt with, you can start dealing damage to the LAV. You have to be very, very careful with the equipment we've got. It's very easy to kill this thing very quickly because it's kind of made of tissue paper. I'm not even using the most optimal weapon for dealing with this, but you can see how its health is just disintegrated. And we're not looking to actually destroy it, because there's a secondary condition to S-ranking some vehicle fights. So, each vehicle in this game has a specific amount of extra soldiers in its reserve tank. So, in order to S-rank, basically, you have to either remove all of the soldiers so that the captain pops out and then non-lethally deal with him, or there's a couple of other ways of doing it, but we'll see those later. But back to the outfit thing. So there are 4 or 5 different kind of outfit archetypes, we'll call them, where you have your standard camo fatigues, you have the quote-unquote naked version, where basically you take the jacket off. Females get a tank top, males kind of, you know, go bare-chested, which is where the naked comes from. You have the sneaking suit with its own individual loadout, and you also have the battle dress. So each one of those 4 outfit archetypes carries its own individual inventories. So what we've done is we've actually put together loadouts for each outfit for specific situations. So for most of the game, we're going to be using the sneaking suit, because it effectively silences your footsteps, makes it much easier to kind of sneak up on people. For the vehicle fights, I've chosen the naked outfit because it's got a decent mixture of weapon slots as well as a little bit more survivability than the alternative. For the AI weapon battles, which will come up on sooner rather than later, I've chosen the battle dress because you can carry 3 weapons with it, and you don't really have to worry about moving around too much. And then I've left the jungle fatigues, or the regular camo fatigues, for one specific mission, which will be at nearly the end of the game. And again, the loadouts are tailored to specific situations, and the purpose of this is to make sure that we're not doing some unnecessary menuing. We're keeping it all, you know, okay, just swap the uniform and then the rest of it is totally fine. So that right there was, I think, what the game considers the primary use of the box boost, where you just plow straight through a guy. Now, normally I would not like to carry a caution into this room, because it makes the traversal of this room a little bit trickier, a little bit slower. Because in order to S-rank this, we're going to have to now take out all of these guys. Whereas normally you could take out just one guy and then box boost through the room. So we basically lost a few seconds here by accidentally, carrying a caution. So what I would prefer to have happen would be to remove the box, hold up that guy in the first room, and then just carry on. But this mission, we're actually tasked with finding Chico, who is randomly behind one of these blue doors on the map. And there is some slight speed tech that I'm doing here. Basically, you can keep tapping the interact button, and if you cancel out of the animation like I did on the first door, then you know Chico's not behind that door. Whereas if you tap the action button and then they stay glued to the door, then that's the one you got. It's just a quicker way of singling out which of the doors is correct, instead of sitting there waiting for him to confirm. So after tracking down Chico, we are sent off to go find a train which was carrying some cargo. If you've either played this game or you know Metal Gear, you probably know what the cargo is. It's not actually Metal Gear, though. Either way, we gotta find the train and figure out, confirm exactly what it was carrying. So we're on our way to do that now. So I kind of beefed this one, but again, good CQC on Sea Urchin here. So she basically took him out in one hit. And we're actually taking a shortcut here by placing the box down, climbing over it, grabbing the new one on the other side, and then this is just a more direct path to the way we were going anyway, because the way the game expects you to go is to backtrack one area and then move around. But if we really don't have to deal with that, we don't want to, it's slow. So, make use of what the game gives you. So the box that I actually have equipped on most of my loadouts is the rescue box. There's no specific reason for it. It's mostly useful in co-op play. And since we're not dealing with co-op right now, we are just gonna use the box boost. Which, the love box here is the primary box of the game. And it does the job just as well. So here I accidentally missed a guard, and he's gonna see me, and then whoopsies. So, in order to maintain S rank, I cannot be spotted, I cannot kill anybody, so in order to actually get the S rank on this mission, I've got to go ahead and cancel out and then run it all back. A perfectly clean run of this would probably be 0 mission restarts, and that would certainly save quite a bit of time, because as you saw, it took me a little while to get to where I was, but it's not like a run-ending mistake. It's not necessarily like a big boss run where one slip up and you've lost the rank for the entire rest of the run, making you reset entirely to get the rank. In this case, you just have to reset the mission and you're golden. So at least there's that little bit of a grace in comparison to most rank 1 runs. So running it back, we're just going to do pretty much the same thing. Take a tighter path and not forget the last guy on the map, who is up on that catwalk there. So on my sneaking suit loadout, I also have equipped Mate Tea, as you can see in my item window. And what that does is it will recover the psyche that drains as you box boost, because that's the resource that it takes. Every time you box boost, you drain a little bit of your psyche, and then when you get low enough, you can't actually box boost anymore. So that's the purpose of the Monte T, just to make sure that we can make it through every mission with as many box boosts as possible. Now, another good note is that Sea Urchin here has 9,999 life and 9,999 psyche, which is the maximum amount possible. So she can, for most smaller missions, she can go through just fine without it. But in certain cases like this sequence of maps, the Mate T just ensures that we can make it to the end. Speaking of, at the end of this mission, you have to clear out all of these enemies. So the fastest way to do so is 2 Mark 22 shots and trying to score a double KO on those guys towards the back train with the twin barrel. Which, because the twin barrel is a shotgun, it does have some spread, but shotguns in this game operate a little differently, where basically they're better than sniper rifles. They are quite accurate at range. They have a little bit of spread, but they also, one of the main defining features that makes them better than sniper rifles, they don't actually have ballistic drop, whereas if you're firing a sniper rifle from range, that bullet will drop, depending on the amount of distance between you and your target. So generally speaking, if you can aim decently, then the twin barrel is going to be more effective at range than that sniper rifle. Because with the sniper rifle, you've also got a lot of wiggling happening while you're looking down the scope. So here we're going to actually fight a tank in this train yard, so we're going back to our naked loadout, which is the M134 Gatling gun and the Fulton launcher. Theoretically, this could be faster with a rocket launcher and the Fulton, but I've chosen the M134 for safety, just to make sure, absolutely sure, that I don't accidentally kill these armored units. So this is going to look a lot similar to the first LAV we fought. But in this case, the tank itself does not drop off the soldiers. They just kind of spawn randomly around the arena. So we're going to use the Fulton launcher as best as we can. Optimally, if we can get several soldiers within radius of the Fulton blast, that would be great. But in a lot of cases, that's just not going to be possible. So we kind of just take it as it comes. Like there, we got 2 for 1, which was wonderful. There, I kind of aimed for another one, but a little optimistically. But through all this, we're also dodging shells from the tank, which, with as much health as we have, isn't as dangerous as as it would be in a new game run, where we're playing as Snake at basically baseline stats. See, I took a direct shell, basically, and I'm fine. But once the captain pops out, same kind of deal. Just take him out with a couple of well-placed Fultons, which is actually a little trickier than it seems, because the Fulton launcher, or rather the hitbox for the commanders as they pop out, is a little deceptive. I've had it happen several times where I've aimed directly at the commander's head with a sniper rifle, and it just phased right through. So you have to aim more towards center mass, if that makes sense. Which, annoying, but it is what it is. This game, again, was originally developed for the PSP, so I'm sure they did the best they could. At any rate, the train was ultimately devoid of its cargo, so now we've got to go track it down, which we have a lead towards some sort of base in a crater, more or less in the area we're in. So we're going to go head off towards that, but in our way there is a kind of cement barricade in the way, and so we need some C4 to take it out, which in the new game run is an actual concern. You have to have the C4 developed by this point because you don't have it naturally. In our case, though, I've already got it set up on my sneaking unit, or my sneaking outfit. And that's just a case of bad aim, so restart real quick. At least it was, like, very early on in the mission, so I'm not losing too much time. But that's kind of... It's very important to memorize where some of the soldiers are. That way you can kind of deal with them as early as possible. Or, in certain cases, if you can avoid them, then that is generally the preferred outcome. On the reverse trip through here, the soldiers are positioned a little differently. So that's something to be concerned about, but again, knowing where they are really helps out. And that guy ahead of me I don't even have to deal with, so I'm just going to cut the left and move on. And as you can see, this map alone has basically taken out all of Sea Urchin's psyche with box boosting because it's very, very long. A lot of boosts needed to actually make it through that particular screen. But we're back here at the prison camp, and this is where that barricade I was speaking of is located. Now, this is a little tricky because there is actually a guard who is going to be pretty close to that wall that we need to blow up. So we need him out of there. In this case, we distracted them with ourselves, and now he's just out of the way. Now he won't die to this, which is very important for our S-rank efforts. Something I haven't actually spoken of to this point yet is that during screen transitions, during most of them at least, you want to not be in your box, you want to not be crouching, because these will slow you down as you're entering into the next area. Because most of the time when you're entering a new area, as you're walking in, you don't have control, and whatever you walked in doing is what you will continue to be doing. So if you're crouching, you'll be crouch walking. If you're in your box, you'll be in your box. And for the most part, standing and running is the fastest option for that. So it is... it's decently important with as many screen transitions as there are in this game to kind of try and do your best to be standing through most, if not all of them. And one of the tricky parts about that is that when you equip your box, you will automatically be transferred to a crouching state when you take the box off. So a lot of the times you'll try and take the box off and then stand up very quickly. Thankfully, the game actually has a button for that on a specific control configuration that we use. So you're not, like, pausing for a moment to stand up. You can just get up with the press of that button. So here, take out the one guard in our way with a sleep grenade. You can also use smoke grenades, but I prefer sleep grenades for the most part because it's more often a better guarantee that they're going to be out of your way. Smokes can be a little finicky sometimes if you're not careful. So here we actually have to deal with the guys up top before we go up because the only way up there is by that ladder, so also be very wary. You can cause yourself to fall asleep with your own sleep grenades, especially if you're at low psyche. And yeah, this was a little spooky, but I somehow was able to avoid detection. However, the problem comes now. The guy is in the way. I cannot make it up this ladder. So I have to restart the mission. Which, this one hurts a little bit more than the others, because basically I was at the end of the mission. I just had to climb that ladder, go a little bit further down, and then the mission would basically be over. But either way, again, better than resetting the entire run. I can just restart the mission from the top and then, you know, do it right the second time. Second burst, same as the first. Take out those two guys, box boost your way up the stairs. Make sure to not be slow through the screen transition here. And again, just one single sleep grenade will take care of this problem ahead of us. And it's not even a difficult grenade to land. You just aim at the back of the truck and you'll hit them, as long as you're on time getting there in the first place. And then this screen, take out the guy on the bottom floor very quickly, and then aim for the guy on the right, because he will move, and that's what really caused the issues last time. Because he woke up the other guy, and then that just started the chain reaction where the guy ended up sleeping at the bottom of the ladder, making me unable to climb it. This guy ahead of me is also going to be concerned because he will turn and spot you, so very quickly duck behind there, hold him up, or trank him, or whatever you have. I find holding him up is probably going to be your best option, since it's basically guaranteed if you're behind someone and you aim at them, you're going to hold them up. So it's a very effective means of getting folks out of your way.
I'm inside the facility.
And it's pretty quick to boot. Usually faster than trying to trank somebody.
Then the truck we're after should be there.
So for this one, there are some Easter eggs. But the truck we actually want is the one next to it, 64779.
This is the one. The exhaust's still warm. But the cargo's already been offloaded.
So we're still one step behind on this one. And so we missed the cargo, but we found something much more interesting. And that is the pupa, which is the first of our 4 AI weapon fights in this game. And AI weapons are basically the big Metal Gears. The pupa is kind of styled and designed after the Shagohod from Metal Gear Solid 3. So it's a fairly similar fight, to be honest. In New Game Plus, not so much. But the special thing about the AI weapon fights is that they have specific parts that determine what they can do. So if you take out those parts, they're less effective. So it's an interesting little strategy thing for playing casually. In this case, we're just going to take a loadout with 2 very powerful rocket launchers, stop it from moving, and take it out dang near immediately. Miller's very worried about my supplies, but I think I'm okay. So AI weapons also have 2 different ways of defeating them. The first is to deplete their health bar all the way, and then climbing into the AI board, the AI pod, which starts a minute-long sequence where you can pull out these boards which correspond to things on it. So as you can see, they've got some little symbols there: C for control, S for sense, M for mobility, A for attack. So destroying the relative parts will unlock these boards, and you can pull them, which is useful for not a whole lot, to be honest, but it makes a certain side op very, very interesting. The second way to defeat AI weapons is to completely empty their health bar 3 times. So after the first time the AI weapon goes down, it'll regenerate after a moment to about between 20 and 40% health. And you basically knock it down again, it comes back up, and then you knock it down again, and then it's dead. yeah, so for our purposes, getting in the AI pod and waiting the minute is actually faster because we don't have to wait for it to reconstitute twice. So even though we didn't pull any of the AI boards out, that's just the way it goes. Fun fact about how much I've played this video game, there are 400 of those AI boards, and something possessed me to claim all of them, which was quite the grind. As you can see coming up here on the post mission screen, after the save, if you look on the bottom left corner, it says complete, and that's in reference to the AI pod. I've played a little bit of this game. So our next mission actually has something interesting about it. We're going back to our sneaking uniform here. So that's nothing terribly special. We've seen this quite a bit now. But it introduces enemies that are localized to this specific area of the game, which are... I don't know if they're actually called scouts. Miller calls them scouts. I call them scouts, so scouts they are. But these enemies cannot be CQC'd. So if you are very close to them and you get spotted by them, you can't actually fall back on CQC as a method of maintaining your S rank. So they either have to be held up or tranquilized some way. Which, again, sometimes not the optimal thing, but for these guys, it's just what has to happen. And the reason you can't CQC them is because they will actually reversal. They will straight up reversal you and try and strangle you out. And, yeah, that's no fun. So, the primary way I found of getting around these guys is just to not deal with them at all. Memorize positions, basically. So this first section with them is actually not too bad. There's one in a very bad spot who will spot you if you don't deal with him, but the rest of them you can just kind of ignore. So after we deal with that mission, we are faced with our last armored unit fight of the game. Well, for the main game at least. This is going to be the Hind D, the Mi-24D. And this is where the second, or sorry, it's a Hind A. It's not a Hind D. No, no funny MGS1 memes here. At any rate, this is where the alternative method for capturing or S-ranking the mechanized units is going to come into play. For the helicopters specifically, if you attack the canopy of the chopper, you know, the part where the door kind of closes, the window bit, the very front of the chopper, if you attack that a whole lot, it will explode and pop open, and then you can attack the commander directly. So, despite the fact that I am completely ignoring his backup soldiers, I have been spotted, they are attacking me, I'm still going to be able to S-rank this because I didn't kill anybody. Which is kind of how the, mech units work. Is that the game assumes that you're going to actually take an alert, but as long as you handle it in a non-lethal way, it'll still give you the S rank. And for choppers, I find the best place to aim those Fultons is actually the nose of the chopper, because the blast radius will take care of that commander for you. But With the chopper cleared, our path forward is now open, and we can continue on through this jungle full of scouts and snipers and awful things. This is one of my least favorite sections of the game, but thankfully it's not too long, so you get through it pretty okay. So next up, we are going to be heading to a secret lab in the jungle. That has a required item that must be in your inventory to complete this particular mission. I already have it set on my sneaking outfit, therefore we don't really got to worry about that too much. Again, all of these outfits have been set specifically for circumstances that I already have knowledge of that will be in the game no matter what. There's room for some there's room for adaptability in them. They're not like complete one-trick pony loadouts. So at any rate, here's where we come up on the ghillie snipers, where they are actually fairly well hidden in this jungle. The ghillie camouflage actually does some really good work at keeping them, well, camouflaged. So again, this is another instance of know where they are and they aren't an issue. Like there was one I literally just walked past there. I didn't even look at him, but he was there. But he's facing in such a direction where it's not really a purpose to dealing with him. You can just completely avoid him, box poofs past, as long as you're wearing that sneaking outfit. Because again, the sneaking outfit will muffle the sounds you make as you're running past. And again, we don't really have to deal with this guy, but I'm going to do so anyway, just for safety. But here's another use for these sleep grenades, where a properly aimed sleep grenade can actually take out several folks at once and just make it so much easier to move through. But I mentioned a little while ago about the screen transitions, but the one exception to that is when it's going to end the mission. Then you don't really have to worry about it. It's totally fine to just be in a box or crouching or whatever you're doing. So we found the lab, but we got bounced because the card we have is not actually the card we need, because there's another card and now we gotta go find that. And this brings us to one of the more random sections of the game. So we have to track down a specific soldier, very distinctly dressed, not camouflaged at all, but his location can be entirely random in basically any of the areas we've already been through. So now we gotta backtrack. The soldiers have all been repopulated because it's a new mission, technically. So we have to deal with them again. And there will be a few in kind of different positions than the first time through. So something to be watchful for. So there's actually two scouts over there, one in a ghillie and then one regular scout. They're tricky. Something you can do is just walk right behind them, which is something that I discovered kind of after I made this recording. There's another one behind that pile of rubble I just looked at. But you can totally just move behind the first couple you saw there without dealing with them at all, and it's not really too much of an issue. The issue would come on the return trip, because once we find the soldier we need, we will have to come back. And again, one of those ghillie soldiers is hiding fairly well, so I've got to take this carefully. I didn't actually spot him, which is why I was very, very, very cautious. But once he's dealt with, he's dealt with. You don't have to worry about him anymore. And as I mentioned before, there are several ways of getting a soldier out of your way. They are more or less identical in terms of length of time where they're incapacitated. Basically, once you take them out, they're out. Stuns in this game last much shorter than sleeps, and then sleep will last much shorter than a hold-up, because a hold-up is basically indefinite. If you hold a soldier up, they will be on the ground where you left them, no matter what. But for speedrun purposes, this isn't really a consideration as much, since we're, you know, our main goal is to just get gone as quickly as possible as it stands. So there's our guy. Very, very, very much out in the open. Orange jacket. We call him Naruto. He's our friend. Until he isn't. At any rate, he's got the card we need. Since I have a pro wrestling maniac as one of Sea Urchin's traits here, she can knock out items from a soldier that she CQCs. So using that, we can just kind of grab the card and move on without having to pat him down. Pretty handy. But as mentioned, now we've got to make our way all the way back to the... well, it's where we started this mission, but it's actually the end of the path here. And here's where you would have to be careful if you didn't take out those two soldiers earlier, because there they are, sleeping away. And really all it would take would be to just go back around the other way again. Not too much of a problem. But assuming we were fast enough, all of the soldiers that we did take out are still, you know, lying on the ground sleeping. So, or in these cases, held up. So we don't have to worry about them again. We just head straight back on to the objective and we're clear. Now here we have our second AI weapon, the Chrysalis, which I remarked earlier we would be seeing again. But before we get to that, we have a section. So, for story purposes, we get stuck in an AI pod and then talked at for a little bit. And there's going to be a QTE section after this as well. Thankfully, this one doesn't actually last the entire minute. It does most of the way there, but there is no purpose to pulling out any of these boards at all for any purpose. As you can see, they have no icons. You can pull them all, well, most of them within the 1 minute they give you. But again, they're kind of blank memory boards, I suppose you would call. But as you can see, the visuals behind the board's getting a little funky, and then, whoa, trippy.
This response, oh god, discontinue.
And then for some reason, this random soldier we recruited out in the middle of Colombia remembers the boss. Don't know what that's about. So as I stated, these are actually unskippable. And the only way to make them faster is to do them correctly. And the one I mentioned that comes up a little later than this, the one that's faster to fail in a non-S rank run, it can be a little tricky if you're like trying to sight read it. So, thankfully we already know the inputs, and we don't have to go reacting as much.
As long as we have
But
loyalty
in this case,
there's no point
if you fail any of these QTEs, it'll actually rewind to the beginning. There's like a few checkpoints in it, but it'll rewind to the beginning of the most recent checkpoint you've cleared,
absolute certainty is the mission.
which means it is faster to just complete them, correctly.
I'm defecting to the Soviet Union. Jack, you can't come with us.
Anyway, finally onto the chrysalis. Yeah, this is the thing Snake shot at in the cutscene so long ago that we skipped. The part of it that we skipped displays that the chrysalis can actually dodge missiles, but we've got a solution for that. As part of my battle dress, I have equipped the chaff grenades, which, if you're familiar with Metal Gear, you know that it plays havoc with pretty much anything electrical. Also, don't mind the fact that I didn't change my outfit. That's going to become very apparent very quickly to me. I had a nice little laugh to myself after I pulled this stunt. I'm just going to put the C4 here and then realize that I've made a mistake. So yeah, a little waste of time for a couple of loading screens and not having the right equipment, but otherwise, no harm, no foul. Everything's fine. But yes, moving into the mission with the actual loadout, I have chaff grenades equipped, and the chaffs are actually going to lock the chrysalis in place, and will cause it to not react to anything I do. Which is very handy, because without its dodging, the chrysalis is actually quite squishy.
You don't have any supply markers. Are you gonna have enough ammo?
So make sure the shaft goes off, then hit it with a rocket, and look at all of that health gone. Boom. It would have actually been faster not to reload the M47 and just to take a couple of shots with the M202, but these are things we learn in hindsight. I made a similar mistake in the pupa fight where I reloaded the rocket launcher instead of just moving on. So a fun part about the chrysalis is actually it can actually land in two different locations, either toward the middle of the arena or up toward the I don't know what you would call it, obelisk, the pyramid, whatever. Either way, once it's down, hit the pod, open it up, and then you got a nice little minute-long break.
Pull out all the unlocked memory boards. Pull out the memory boards. All the unlocked boards will
And
have
for anything that's not the first pupa fight, Miller and Huey will chatter your brains out every single time with the exact same lines. So I hope you don't mind hearing this again, because we got one more AI fight where this is going to happen.
If you attack parts on the exterior of the machine, the memory boards that control those parts should light up. You can tell what a memory board does by looking at its color when it lights up.
Yeah, it takes them 40 seconds to get through the exact same 6-7 lines of dialogue. When running ILs or farming memory boards, that gets quite old quite quickly. So, also a little unfortunately, the post-fight cutscenes here, you can't skip them, because I guess they really want you to watch this AI pod just rocket off into space or something. I don't know. Either way, that's the chrysalis done, and we're on to more or less the final leg of this whole journey here. We've gone through the jungle, the swamp, the other jungle. We found the bases. And now we're off to find the other base. So basically, we're actually going to go straight from that AI lab straight to another secret base, and then, I mean, we're pretty close to the end here in terms of locations. There aren't too many more unique locations in the game from this point on. But let's swap back to the sneaking outfit. Do not do a sneaking mission in a battle dress. It's going to turn out poorly. I mean, you could do it, but one feature of the battle dress is that it's very heavy, which makes your characters quite slow in it, so only use the battle dress when you know you're going to need it. So this is the mine base. We got one guy to take care of here. There's another two there to my right, which we're going to just smoke out. Very, very nicely. And then from there, it is a simple matter of just box boosting to the end, trying not to get caught on any of the random geometry, but, you know, things happen. Metal Gear. Almost. Not quite. But yeah, the first mine base mission there is very, very simple. It's more of a traversal challenge than anything. But that does lead us into the second mine base mission, which is down in the quarry. So, despite the fact that we were incredibly quiet, we got seen by nobody. They know we're here, and I accidentally go to Mother Base. This is a bit of a time loss, but it's not run-ending or whatever. You kind of have to go through some dialogues, but really it's just a matter of going back to the mission selector. But yes, the enemy knows we're here, and now they're sending all they can at us. And by all they can, I mean a few soldiers and some kidnappers. And this is going to be our one and only use of the fatigues, where we have it set up to where we can take care of the kidnappers effectively, while also being able to non-lethally deal with a bunch of guards. So, my non-lethal weapon of choice for this outfit is, of course, the twin-barrel shotgun with the rubber slugs. And basically any lethal weapon will work for the kidnappers. At one point I was using the regular twin-barrel shotgun, but have since changed my attitude because for the kidnappers, they move a little erratically at times, so an automatic weapon is generally more useful. And there are tons of automatic weapons in the game. The one that was recommended to me by friend and fellow Peace Walker runner Sergeant Silent was the short-barreled M60. And so that is what I am using on this current loadout, which it does the job pretty well. So I think the suggestion worked pretty well. So again, taking out as many of these guys as possible with as few shots as possible is usually a pretty good idea. So any doubles or triples you can manage to land can only help. Especially with non-lethal methods for these soldiers, they will have a bit of a waiting period before they disappear, and it's them disappearing which will cause this next wave to spawn. So as quickly as you can take out these groups of enemies, the better. So again, as many double or triples as you can manage really speeds this whole process up. At any rate, most of this mission is just a challenge of how well can you aim. As I said, the twin barrel is pretty much my go-to for sniping anything in this game. I've trained myself to be able to, actually use it at range. The targeting reticle for a lot of the weapons in the game, they get talked about a lot, but I don't actually mind it. The weapons are more or less consistently accurate where the dots there intersect, or well, where the dots would intersect if there were lines in between them. So I treat it as a big crosshair, and it works out pretty well. And of course, while we're waiting for the next wave to spawn, there's not a whole lot to do, so we spin. But this is the last wave here. So once these guys are done, this mission's over. And we will be on to our very final AI weapon. There we go. Oh, look at that rocket go. But yes, after this mission, we will be on to our final AI weapon, the Cocoon. The Cocoon's pretty big. I mean, you'll see it in a few minutes here, but it's pretty big. Alrighty, so for the second to last AI weapon fight, we're going to go back to our battle fatigue, or our battle dress. And we're gonna treat it much like the others, with as much disrespect as possible. So the Cocoon is, well, it's a giant tank, and as expected, it's quite tanky. It has a lot of health, and a lot of armament, which if you're not careful, can absolutely shred you. Like, this thing is basically a giant rolling gun. It has the massive turret at the front. It has, I don't know, 25, 30 little mini gun bays there. It's got 4 miniguns. It's got rockets. It's got, oh man, the arsenal this thing packs is a little ridiculous. But I mean, look how big it is. Also, don't try grabbing this ladder before this cutscene happens. That's why. But yes, the ultimate goal is to actually climb this thing, and once you reach a certain health threshold, the Cocoon will go into a thermostat malfunction, which causes it for some reason to drive straight into the wall, which will, as denoted by Huey, dislodge the ladder mounted on the side, which allows us to climb all the way on up. And like I said, I have maximum health and the second best defensive armor in the game on, and this thing really shredded me on my way up the ladder. So, caution is advised. This is why we bring healing items with us, even if most of the time we aren't going to use them. This is just a safety measure.
Pull out all the unlocked memory boards. Pull out the memory boards. All the unlocked boards.
So another 40 seconds of them talking at us over the same stuff. And then 20 more seconds after that of waiting.
Any boards you remove can be used to build our own AI weapon. Memory boards have different functions according to the icons displayed over them. Go ahead and take whichever ones you want.
But I don't want any, Huey.
The exterior of the machine, the memory boards that control those parts should light up. You can tell what a memory board does by looking at its color when it lights up.
Anyway. Again, we're not going to actually take any of these. In terms of speedrunning, it doesn't affect anything if you do take them. For individual level runs, you want as few of these things as you can, get away with. Specifically because, like I said, it makes, if you have a decent chunk of those boards, it makes a certain side mission in the game much, much more difficult. And so, for speed running, that's not really what we want, really. But yes, with the cocoon defeated, we've gained access to where we're going because, well, we just got that lucky. Some exploding part went and damaged the lock mechanism on that door. So we're just going to go in there now. But this more or less kicks off our end game. We have a few more regular missions, but the rest of it's all going to be boss fights. But before we get to that, we have a couple of missions here. So, our next mission, we're going to go back to our sneaking outfit.
Combat.
No?
Stealth.
Yes. There we go. So we're sneaking into this underground base where that other gigantic robot just disappeared down into. And this mission will be automatic all the time caution, so something to be aware of. To start the mission, you can kind of just chuck a sleep grenade over that railing. Again, smokes are usable, so whichever you prefer is what you can use here. But the primary objective is to get all of those guards out of your way, one way or the other. Because they are directly in front of the elevator you need to go into. Past that, this mission is fairly simple. It's more avoiding enemies than actively dealing with them. And I believe I actually failed here. I got spotted there. So we're going to have to see the start of this again. But, again, more lenient than usual top rank speed runs.
The enemy's still on high alert after that last tangle. Don't get yourself caught.
So, one more sleep grenade. And this time I opted to throw a second one instead of using the Mark 22 on that last guy.
To use the elevator, press the
Again,
action button.
many different ways of dealing with the obstacles in your way in this game. In some cases, there's an optimal solution. In others, it's personal preference. So this time, I'm actually not going to box boost through this room. It just lines up the cycles a whole lot more nicely. And as you can hear, they are kind of like... Oh, I failed the second time. That's unusual. At any rate, as you can tell, they did actually spot me, more or less. But they didn't call the alert because I was just out of range. Which you can use that to your advantage. It's a little spooky sometimes, but it's not like the worst thing. And finally, third time's the charm on that one, where I managed to get all of them with one grenade instead of having to clean up after myself. And one more time through this room. And one more adjustment to the strategy, where I'm just going to throw a sleep grenade at this guy.
What was that?
And those guys too.
They're calling for backup up top. Right behind you.
And there we go. Sometimes if you find yourself moving a little bit too quickly, you just have to calm down a little bit. Slow it down, take it easy. because finishing the mission is much more important than doing it quickly most often than not in high rank runs. So, one more sleep grenade, get both of those dudes, and those are really the only two obstacles towards getting to this here shutter. But once we open this up and get on the other side, we are home free. And here is the failable QTE that I keep mentioning. It is the longest QTE in the game. It is one of the more difficult ones. However, the reward for doing all of this on top of getting the S rank is pretty valuable, as it turns out. And also, you just get to see Big Boss absolutely wreck the daylights out of some poor dudes who have no clue. But we do all of that for our S rank and for that card. So, Snake gets captured, which is reflected in the next mission, since we won't be able to use anyone but Snake. But this is the kind of ubiquitous, unfortunate circumstance simulator bit, which is kind of funny. In that, in the Japanese version, it's actually censored out to be something completely different. Well, I say completely different, but you don't get to hear David Hayter blah 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 blah. You hear something else entirely. At any rate, there are 3 sections of this sequence here. The first one's really short, really easy. Second one's kind of a medium, still kind of easy. And then the third one is quite a bit longer. Still sort of easy, but the difficulty lies in the fact that in the speedrun we want to try and get through the cutscenes as quickly as possible, so there's not really much of a break between all of these mashing segments, which can absolutely wear on the arms. But if we were to call this a QTE segment, this is another one that you cannot fail. In this case, it's because you kind of don't survive.
Why not just give up?
So, if you have S-ranked the mission previous to this, and you got yourself that fancy card, you get to skip a little mini game that you have to do in order to get out of here. Which I'm actually gonna I'm going to do the first step because I can, and also I need to waste a little bit of time anyway. But yeah, the first step of that minigame is pulling a jigsaw out of your chest. But you need to wait for this guy to get out of the way anyway, before you can use the card and move on through. Otherwise, you would have to use that jigsaw to saw open the lock, which takes a while and also makes noise, which can attract guards, and is just generally a pain. Now, Snake is not in a sneaking suit. He is not silent when he runs, so the best way of taking on this room is just to see the guards and get them out of your way. But all in all, pretty genuinely simple mission. Not too much to worry about. The mashing can be a problem, but if you get through that, then the rest of it's a breeze. Now, unfortunately, we have to go through basically the entire underground base again, because we hadn't completed what we came here for. So, back to Sea Urchin. Thankfully, on missions that are locked to Snake, from the mission selector, thankfully they don't change your unit that you're using, so no problems there. And since the unit I was using was already in a sneaking suit, I didn't have to change her outfit either. Very handy. So instead of going for the elevator this time, we're going to take the slightly longer way around.
Maybe that leads underground.
And this is another mission that gave me some trouble in this recording, so we'll be seeing that first room again.
Enemies that coordinate their attacks are too much trouble.
So you really want to take out that guy on the left, and I certainly didn't.
Enemies close by.
And that's why. That's why it's trouble. But yeah, you have to do something to distract that guy. Otherwise, that's going to happen. You don't even have to like knock him out or anything. Just as long as there's something to distract him from seeing you. As you can see, my go-to will be the sleep grenades.
What was that?
Because it is it's a fairly good distance you can throw these things, and when it comes to distractions, they're fairly solid. So I'm just going to go ahead and bank this one off of that far wall. It's not actually going to take out the guy I'm interested in. It's actually going to take out the other guy. But the one facing my direction is actually more interested in waking up his friend. So he doesn't even notice me. Which is what I mean when I say anything as a distraction. Literally anything. But the rest of this mission is actually going to be quite simple. Especially with sleep grenades. Again, you can also use smokes if you need, or if you feel like that's more your speed. Thankfully, a funny thing about the sleep grenades is that their hitbox is a little weird when it comes to elevation. But it worked out in my favor, so you know, who's complaining? Anyway. We finally made it back to the hangar again, and now this time, it's time for the big showdown against the title enemy. It's going to be Peace Walker herself. Which will be our final AI weapon fight, but we're going to do it a couple of times. Because the first time just won't stick. Which, I mean, it's totally fine. As you're going to see, it's kind of underwhelming in its first iteration, so I'm okay with having a rematch. So, as usual, AI weapon. We're going to bring the battle dress. And all of the rockets that entails. But we're not going to need too many of them. Not for this one. So, something fun about Peace Walker 1 here is that you can actually engage her in a loop, which we're going to start because it also puts us in a prime position to hit her most vulnerable points, which is that AI pod there. But as you can see, her health is absolutely melting. This first version of the fight is absolutely a joke. Nothing really to worry about. But the loop you can engage her in is just kind of running underneath her and having her spray her flamethrower at you. And you can kind of just keep having her do that just by moving in and out of the effective range of it. So, again, really not much of a fight at all, being totally honest. But at the end of the mission, we do have this QTE sequence where we have to dodge missiles, and in a little bit here, we're also going to have to dodge trees. This is important because this will also kill an S rank if you get hit by too many missiles or if you get hit by a tree. So, as simple as it is, you do have to kind of pay attention, at least a little bit. For the most part, if you stick to the left of the screen, you're going to be totally fine. You'll dodge basically everything, which means basically just keep hitting the triangle button. You'll be on the left side of the screen. And then for the wood bit here, it's always going to be right, left, right, right. So, not too much of an issue. Very, very simple. But, yeah, third burst, same as the first. The missiles get into more interesting patterns, but otherwise are basically pretty simple to dodge. Again, sticking to the left-ish side of the screen is going to keep you safe from most of this. There might be some fine-tuning necessary, but basically all I'm doing is mashing the triangle button. And if I look like I'm going to get slapped in the face by an S-mine here, I'll just kind of lay off momentarily. But once she roars, that's your cue to stop mashing because nothing else matters. Once she roars and walks off the screen, that's it. And once we are done with that mission, it leads us to some of the trickiest missions in the game. The U.S. missile base is difficult. The first one isn't so bad. It can catch you out in the later sections, which is a bit of an annoyance for an S-rank run because, as mentioned, you can restart as many times as you like, but it does kind of waste time, and having the most difficult section be at the end of the mission is rough. Because if you fail at the end of the mission, guess what? You got to start it all over again. So,
See the communications tower to the west? Head for that, Snake.
so I've actually brought the wrong loadout for this mission.
What's wrong?
There is a kidnapper.
Situation.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, I switched over my unit entirely, and
Understood.
basically male and female soldiers also have specifically individual level loadouts. So you basically have a total of about 10 loadouts that you can bring along and have prepared. So for this loadout, I have both lethal and non-lethal twin barrels, and I have brought along smoke grenades on a sneaking suit. And basically this is all to make sure I can deal with kidnappers and whoever else I need to worry about. And basically the goal here on this first screen is to control the caution until you have to take out that kidnapper, because that will give you the maximum amount of time to throw smokes up towards these guys up on this raised section here. And I happen to have the colored smokes, and the black smoke is nearly impossible to see through. It doesn't matter. If you have like regular smokes, that's fine. It'll do the same thing. Or if you have any of the other colored variants, nothing really changes in regards to that. The smokes all work the same way. For the second screen, we got caution soldiers as well as regular soldiers on the left side there. This is actually the best place for them to be, because we can hit them all with one single smoke and then take out the kidnapper. And the dude on the right is inconsequential. Also, small movement optimization here. If you're not box boosting, the fastest way to go up inclines is to crouch, because you'll move at more or less regular walking speed or running speed when you're doing that. So, just a little optimization. Doesn't really matter one way or the other. So this is the most tricky room of this particular mission. There are dudes to my right, and
The enemy's here.
yeah. S rank means I'm moving all the way back to the start. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to use my knowledge of what happens here to tell you a terrible secret. This is not actually a valid S rank run. I kind of got fed up on this mission because I was just making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, and I wanted to move on. And I was running out of time to get this done. So I accepted a single A rank outcome.
Someone's firing at us. Going to alert status.
But given enough attempts, I would have absolutely been able to S rank this. So it's not even really that big of a deal. It's a bit of a it's more of a ding to my pride than anything. And yeah. So an interesting quirk about smoke grenades is that if you overlap the area of effect, then the first smoke that you threw gets cleared and the second one sticks. So if you are trying to cover a wide area, the most important thing is that you don't overlap anything, which basically only really matters for this particular screen, where we want one toward the back corner there and then one towards the front of this section, just to make sure we deal with both of the guys on this roof. But yes, both of them are currently occupied with their own set of smoke this time, which makes it much easier to get through them. But this second screen here is exactly as pictured on the first go. Just chuck a smoke toward the back wall over there. Make sure you catch all four of those guys, knock the kidnapper out of the sky, and we're good to go. And the smoke grenade is actually a larger radius than is shown visually. But if you see the guards doing that kind of trying to clear out their immediate visual range there, then they're not going to bother you at all. You're totally fine to keep moving. So this time we're going to deal with that side first, and then kind of make sure we get some smokes on that side too, and then we're going to use the regular twin barrel to take out this kidnapper before it spots us. And much like that first guy who fell to his doom, we had nothing to do with that one. So here, I'm actually trying to salvage this because I've kind of goofed it up a little bit. Yeah, it's not going well. So we're just going to climb the ladder and try and deal with it from up here. Thankfully, the soldier wasn't in the wasn't on the balcony here, but then I found him, and then yeah, things just kind of happened. And this is the run where I just decided to continue because I was right there anyway. But yeah, it's simple enough not to screw this up. In fact, being under alert or evasion here is no good, because you are unable to actually finish the mission while under alert or evasion, as pictured. But ultimately, like I said, I got a little impatient. This mission was not treating me terribly kindly, so I just wanted to get through it. But simple enough to fix the mistakes that I made and get through it first try, which would save me more time than is even pictured here, which I think I saved a minute, maybe, on these splits. Oh, right, never mind. So, I have these splits combined for the mission I just finished and the next, so I am actually losing time, which stands to reason. Easy time save for next time. But for this next section, we are actually going back to Sea Urchin, and we're going to be using our jungle fatigues again. I said it was only one time, but I lied. So we're using the fatigues for the reasons of... The fatigues are a mixture of speed and defense. So I've already mentioned the loadouts bit, but the individual outfits also have kind of defensive stats as well, where like the battle dress is going to be your most defensive with the helmet, and I believe naked or swim trunks or bikini top are going to be your least defensive ones, but they also move the fastest. So the fatigues here have kind of a mix of both speed and defense, which is what I want, because otherwise this mission takes a while. We've also got a good amount of healing with us, because we're going to be tanking a lot of damage as we move through this section. So one piece of equipment that I have not mentioned this entire game, but has been there on every single loadout, is the Infinity Bandana. This game does not punish you for using the Infinity Bandana. My thinking is that because this game requires a lot of ammunition to make it through certain things, they probably decided, hey, let's throw them this bone. So yes, I'm also trying to make sure that I am not like on the bandana when I'm about to go down, because yes, that will cause a game over. I have to have my healing equipped in order for it to take effect when I take lethal damage. But I'm also trying to use the bandana to make sure my ammo stocks are going to, you know, stay within a useful range. For the most part, you don't need infinite ammo. I haven't really gone through most of the ammo the game allows you. So the bandana is really just a safety measure for like the boss fights, and making sure I can just throw sleep gas willy-nilly sometimes. But we've got 2 more screens of this particular mission to go. This one, there's nothing to it. You run forward, try and dodge missiles, that's about it. Walking over that middle bit there is slow, so try not to do that, because it causes you to kind of, I don't want to say stumble, that's not quite the word for it, but it causes you to slow down as you're walking up it. And there, I accidentally did a, I'm going to call it a damage boost, where I got hit by my gas grenade, but that canceled my roll, so I was able to kind of get back into the action sooner. Not, you know, not terribly useful, but it was an interesting circumstance. Which brings us to the final screen of this mission. This is a holdout where you have to defeat all of the enemies attacking you. And this is where I'm going to find a lot of use in my bandana once I finally put it back on. So here I have to balance the incoming damage with my outgoing ammo, basically. So for my organic targets, again, I am taking the twin barrel with the rubber slugs because it is very effective. It's going to take several shots to down people with armor, but ultimately that's not too much of a it's not too much of a big deal. But once all of the organic targets are down, there is also a chopper that I have to deal with, which is where the SM-60 with the short barrel comes in. As you notice, I haven't even put the bandana back on because it was a little spicy getting up to this point. I'm down to my last healing item. So you can take rations, which are your standard healing items. I have max rank rations on this file, but I also have max rank Curry as well, and you can take both of those, which gives you a total of 8 healing items. But you also can take like smaller healing items, like there's like soda items that are good for healing a little bit at least. But for the most part, I just stick to the rations and the curry. So stuck to 8, and I used 7 in this mission, which is a lot. Considering the rest of the game, I barely used maybe 1 across the entirety of it. But that is that mission done. Again, very tricky, very dangerous, very easy to take a death there. So happy enough to get through that in one shot with the S rank, no less. But with that mission done, we are now down to our final boss. Peace Walker 2 is going to be our last boss. Peace Walker 3 is just a kind of a victory lap, so it's nothing really to worry about. But Peace Walker 2, as far as the fight goes, it's a lot of trying to avoid damage. Pretty standard. To maximize the amount of damage we do, we have to try and hit the AI pod, which it actually defends itself pretty well. It is fairly difficult to actually get a beat on that AI pod a lot of the time. So knowing where the next best place to aim is also going to play a factor. Because, as you can probably see, it's fairly well armored. But there are certain sections of it with less armor. So, for instance, the leg bits there, the top section and the bottom section have armor, but the middle section, that lighter gray part, that has less armor, so therefore takes more damage. So those are pretty good places to aim for. The head is also a decent option, like the spherical head. The interesting thing about Peace Walker 2 here, specifically this mission's Peace Walker fight, is that it actually has 2 AI pods in it. There's the one fairly obvious one there, but there's also one kind of set into the back of it, just next to its missile launchers. So, another big part of fighting Peace Walker is you have to kind of recognize what it's doing at a glance. So here I actually knew it was going to go for a walk here. So it can jump in any sort of predetermined locations, and knowing what those locations means is what I mean for the importance of knowing what it's doing. So, as you can see, it jumped once facing that direction, but it was further to the left, and then it jumped again facing that direction, but it was kind of backward. The second time I knew it wasn't going to go for a walk. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. There's a particularly dangerous attack during the more difficult versions of this fight, where she'll jump facing you off to one side, and then she'll go across the entire dang arena and just slide into you and deal a ton of damage. It's remarkable, honestly. But this fight is very nearly done. When she gets to about 10% health, then she does that little S-mine phase there. And you can fire at the S-mines as she's launching them to knock them out of the air and damage her, but honestly, it's usually just better to continue pelting her with your own missiles. Especially in New Game Plus. In New Game, it's generally worth it to hit those S-mines. But that is Peace Walker 2, done and dusted. This, however, this mission has the unique thing of, it's going to send you into the AI pod again, but this time you actually do have to pull all of the boards to make it go as fast as possible. So, one small optimization here is that it's actually going to start you in a different location than it usually does. So, when the overlay comes up, usually it starts you on the A column. This time it starts you on the C column and has your cursor on the D column. No idea why that is, but the primary goal is to do this as quickly as possible, so you move over to the C column so you're not moving around, and then you pull all the way down on the same column until you reach the end. Then you move to a adjacent column. Doesn't matter which one, just as long as it's next to your current column. So you can go to D, you can go to B, just don't go to A. Not after C, that is. But yeah, no, that is basically the entire game finished. Like I said, Peace Walker 3 is just a victory lap where we're basically just going to be sitting there for 3 minutes or so, give or take. So we have about another minute or so of pulling these boards. But this is going to be where the commentary for this video ends, so if you watched all the way through, thank you very much. If you want to watch more commentated speedruns like this, go ahead and leave a like, hit the subscribe button, do a thing with a bell or something. At any rate, I'll see you next time.